Hi, this is Peter with Simvana. Today we'll be discussing a topic that comes up in almost any discussion of virtual reality, and that's cyber sickness. Cyber sickness is just motion sickness that develops as a result of using virtual reality. Sometimes it's referred to as simulation sickness, virtual reality induced symptoms, visually induced motion sickness, etc. But all these terms are simply trying to describe discomfort or nausea that occurs while using VR. The likely cause of cybersickness is a conflict between the information the brain is receiving from the visual system and the information it's receiving from the vestibular system in the inner ear. Normally, when the brain receives visual information that you're in motion, it can correlate that with information from the vestibular system to confirm it. When the two conflict, you can develop symptoms such as nausea and vomiting. So, why would we even develop nausea due to a conflict between these two sensory systems? One theory that's been proposed is called the poison theory. It states that as an evolutionary adaptation, if we ate something poisonous like a mushroom that produced these disruptions in our normal sensorium, it would cause us to become nauseated and regurgitate the substance before any more of it entered our bloodstream. Whether you agree with that theory or not, VR definitely has the capability to produce these symptoms. So, how do we mitigate cybersickness? The first method is by altering how we move within the virtual space. Continuous rotation, in which the participant is smoothly rotating from one perspective to another, can produce significant motion sickness. By snapping the viewpoint in increments, we remove the visual conflict. There's no longer a visual sensation of continuous motion. You're turned one direction, and then in the next moment, you're turned a slightly different direction. The same applies to locomotion. Rather than sliding across the room from one place to another, you can choose to use teleportation to pop from one area to another. Again, this removes the visual sense of continuous motion from the conflict. In some cases, however, teleportation is a little too big a movement and you need to slide closer to an object just by a few inches. To address this potential source of cyber sickness, we use a little mind trick. The first is called dynamic field of view reduction. If you look closely, as the learner moves around the room, the screen appears to become dark around the edges like a vignette. This effectively reduces the volume of visual information the brain is receiving. There's still a conflict with the inner ear, but there is simply less of it. You'll also notice that within the vignette is a white grid that appears. This grid acts as an additional frame of reference for the brain to assess the speed and direction of motion. It's the same concept as why you get carsick riding in the back seat of a car but not in the front seat. The windshield itself provides a frame that gives you a stable point of reference. Likewise, in VR, we're simply giving it an additional source of information the brain can use to confirm the information it's receiving from the eyes. We're continuing to research more and better ways to make VR accessible for everyone, whether they're susceptible to motion sickness or not. The technology is always improving, and we'll continue to test new devices and techniques to make the learning more enjoyable. So be sure to click like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, and I'll see you in the next video.